and a very warm welcome to this special show on micro, small and medium enterprises. इस सीरीज में हम कई प्रमुख सेक्टर्स का जायजा लेने के बाद अब कुछ स्टेट्स पर फोकस कर रहे हैं। आज बारी है तेलंगाना की। तेलंगाना इज द यंगेस्ट स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया और राज्य में एमएसएमईज की चैलेंजेस और न्यूअर अपॉर्चुनिटीज पर चर्चा के लिए हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं श्री जयेश रंजन, प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी इंडस्ट्रीज एंड कॉमर्स and Information Technology, Government of Telangana. So thank you for joining us. But before we move ahead, thanking our partners for this series. Presenting sponsor, Amazon. Co-powered by Farm Easy and Intel. Crypto exchange partner, BitBNS. Domain partner, GoDaddy. Driving partner, Skoda. Laptop partner, Dell. Logistics partner, DHL. Special partner, Timology. Thanks to all of you. आइए आगे बढ़ते हैं. Jayesh ji, it seems the MSMEs have been among the worst hit segments in this pandemic, sir. In fact, they were trying to recover from the first wave and second wave hit them really badly. They have been facing issues related to liquidity, cash flow, and they're trying to recover now. How are you analyzing the present mood, sir? What feedback are you getting from the ground in your region, sir?
No, I agree with the first part of what you said, that the pandemic hit them very badly during the first wave. There's no doubt about it. There were multiple kinds of disruptions. Their supply chains got disrupted. Many of the MSMEs were hit when their workforce, many of whom used to depend on labor from other parts of the country, that was not available. There were changes in the market which the MSMEs would cater to. And of course, the fact that for many months they had to go without any revenue stream while paying all the costs, that was very detrimental. But I would disagree with the fact that in the second wave also, we had similar kind of issues. So when the second wave came to our country, and obviously many states decided to lock down, we were very clear that looking at the first wave experience, we are not going to close the industries at all. So in the second wave, while there was a small period of lockdown in the state of Telangana, all industries were permitted to continue to work without any restriction. And this was a very conscious decision. And at that point in time, in March, April, it also appeared like a very bold decision, because the second wave, as we all know, the rate of infections were very high. In fact, large number of fatalities were there. But looking at the first wave experience, we felt that while protecting lives is important, protecting livelihoods is also equally important. And therefore, we permitted industries to run. So production continued. Of course, the industries themselves were prudent about not bringing too many people in their factories, socially spreading their workforce, and not running 3 shifts, etc., etc. But within that norms of prudence, they were able to continue to operate. However, the surrounding states or the rest of the country where there was closures and lockdowns, etc., etc., that impacted them to some extent. So I can't say that during the second wave it was completely business as usual. We permitted everything, but the circumstances around us were not completely open, and therefore that impact was there. But all in all, I completely agree with your remark that the pandemic has disrupted the MSME sector much more than it has disrupted other stakeholders in our economy.
Sir, in the second wave, as you mentioned, the manufacturing activities were still on and the state government supported them on many fronts. But sir, many SMEs in the services sector have been on the back foot. Your views on the stress on MSMEs, in particular the hospitality, tour operators, restaurant businesses, what is your assessment like them turning sick as well?
I completely agree that the manufacturing sector, in the second wave, we permitted them to maintain their regular operations, the regular scale of operations, and to that extent, there were streams of revenue and their losses were minimum, if at all there were losses. But the hospitality sector, I completely agree, they have been very badly hit, and the MSMEs in particular. See, in any sector for that matter, whether it is the hospitality sector or manufacturing sector or other services sector, we see that there are both the large players as well as MSMEs who operate in the same space. And we have seen across sectors that the large players do have larger pockets also to withstand some of the shocks. So for a few months, they're able to manage regardless of the lockdowns and disruption, etc., which is very difficult for the MSME. So that is particularly distressing for them. If you stop their streams of revenue, it is like the migrant workers scenario in the first wave. If you recall, migrant workers in hundreds, in thousands actually, in desperation, they started walking back to their native places when their sources of revenue were completely dried up and completely cut off. So MSMEs also do reach that level of desperation at some time or the other. And in the services sector, the desperation has been much more than in the manufacturing sector.
So, Jay sir, so during the pandemic, we've also seen that IT sector has played a very, very crucial role, sir. And Hyderabad is a very important sector for the IT industry, sir. Sir, in order to handhold MSMEs in the IT sector, the Telangana government is also working on a policy. What is the latest really on that front, sir?
See, we have initiated a number of support measures for the IT MSMEs because the backbone of the IT industry, while we do have some of the largest global players having their development centers, having their tech centers in Hyderabad, but the backbone of the IT industry is provided by these MSMEs only. So our responsibility was very clear that the technology prowess which these companies have achieved and the kind of support they give to the state's economy, the state should not let them down at this juncture. So multiple initiatives were started. One, of course, was that the government tried to reduce their cost of operations by giving them certain benefits. So, for example, most of the mid-scale IT companies, small and mid-scale IT companies, they work out of rented space. They don't have their own offices. They're not that big enough to construct their own offices or buy out their own offices. They typically operate out of rented space. So we have given property tax waivers, electricity charges waivers, and so on and so forth, so that their cost of operation comes down. In fact, if they are operating in any government building, the government also has built IT towers at a few locations. And if anyone is operating in that government building, we made it completely rent free. You don't have to pay even 1 rupee rent till I guess it is till the end of this year. Government started a program, a freeze program actually, where we offer to the MSMEs that if their employees need to be upskilled to match the best which is there elsewhere, then we'll be very happy to run those kind of programs for them. And that also has gone off well. There are quite a few companies who sponsor their employees to participate in this kind of an upskilling program so that their skills match some of the best companies that are there. Similarly, we also have decided that since post-COVID, we see lots of digitalization initiatives. We have also decided that certain kinds of digitalization efforts, which will be led by the government, the opportunities will be reserved only for MSMEs. So let us say the agriculture department or the transport department or any other department in the government, if they want to take up any digital project, the opportunity to participate in that project will be restricted only to MSMEs. So we have also tried to give some business to our MSMEs so that there is some stream of revenue which they continue to get in this pandemic period. Also, we have tried to look at overseas markets. See, the prowess of Indian IT today is very well known, particularly in countries like the US and Canada and Western Europe and so on and so forth. Everyone appreciates and recognizes that Indian companies are far superior in developing solutions or deploying solutions and so on and so forth. But there are still parts of the world where people are not yet that familiar, or the opportunity to give space to Indian companies is not there that much. So in these lockdown months, both last year as well as this year, we actually, in a very strategic way, identified certain countries where Indian companies can get some business. And then with the help of our embassies, we conducted road shows, we participated in virtual meets, etc., and hope that some opportunity for Hyderabad-based companies can be created. So various ways in which we are trying to help our IT MSMEs. And now that the lockdown, etc., is over and things are getting back to normal, our MSME IT sector companies also are, they have started to show good results. More or less, the crisis is behind us, behind them to a large extent.
Okay. So, sir, as you mentioned the IT MSMEs, apart from that, which other sectors are looking promising? In fact, growth opportunities, where are you seeing for MSMEs in your region moving forward from here on, sir?
There are 3, 4 sectors where Hyderabad has a very strong legacy in the entire country. Hyderabad is the leader in some sectors. We discussed about IT. Another area where Hyderabad has been a leader for not now or since some years, but let me say for almost 5 decades or maybe 5.5 decades is the life sciences sector. Hyderabad is the hub today for pharmaceutical manufacturing, for biotechnology, even vaccines, for example. Since we are in the middle of this COVID times, I cannot miss not commenting on vaccines. So, in the country right now, as you know, 3 vaccines are being used. One of them is produced in Hyderabad, and the second one, though the first batch got imported from Russia, the second batch of manufacturing also is happening in Hyderabad. And then there is another vaccine which is about to get complete approval, which also is being developed by a Hyderabad-based company. So all over the world now, the prowess of India in vaccine manufacturing, vaccine R&D is well established, and Hyderabad leads that vaccine initiative from the front. So the life sciences sector, again, like the IT sector, public perception is about the Apples and the Googles and the Microsofts, etc. Similarly, in the pharma sector also, we talk about the big ones. But again, the backbone of that industry is provided by MSMEs. We have large number of mid-scale companies, small companies who are into various components of this pharmaceutical chain. That sector has done well, and we want to encourage that sector further. And one of the decisions that we have taken, of course, this decision was taken before pandemic, but in some ways the pandemic has come at a time when this decision will actually get accelerated, and people who are participating in that will also be greatly helped. So we are setting up in a way the world's largest industrial park dedicated to life sciences. This is called the Hyderabad Pharma City, which is going to be spread over close to 20,000 acres. And we have completed all the procedures, the environmental approvals, the master planning, the infrastructure development, etc., tying up for common amenities, utilities, like the common effluent treatment plant, etc. And this will be a facility where we have decided very consciously that a large chunk of it will be reserved for MSMEs, and lots of common facilities which the MSMEs otherwise would have found it very difficult to invest into. See, there are certain facilities which, if I have to produce or I have to procure or I have to create on my own, that will give me, that will add to my costs many fold. But if I provide it as a common utility for everyone, then my cost comes down significantly and my competitiveness, my efficiency also goes up. So in the Pharmacity project, looking at the special needs of the MSMEs, we are providing many such facilities as a common utility. And this
Right,
again
sir.
will be a park which will give a big boost to the MSMEs in the life sciences sector in Telangana.
Okay. So we've also seen that this pandemic and also seeing the industry 4.0 is leading to demand for newer type of skills. In order to support, as you were mentioning, for the skilling front, in order to support MSMEs in particular on the skilling front for upskilling and reskilling of their workforce, what would you like to share, sir?
See, this is going to be a very big requirement as days and weeks and months go by. Uh, the reason why MSMEs are not really able to compete globally or even domestically for that matter can be attributed only to one factor, which is lack of best quality skills. As I mentioned in the context of IT, the best talent in the IT sector obviously is taken by the large companies, which is a common observation. It's not just true only for Hyderabad. The world over, that is the phenomena that the students of the best engineering colleges, the best technology colleges, etc., get the best jobs, and then only the remaining ones are available for the smaller companies to vie for. But upskilling is an opportunity. So even if you have joined in a company at a lower level with lesser quantum of skills, it is always possible to upskill you, to retrain you, to keep you updated, make you on par with the best through very little effort. And we have found this in not just in IT, but in other sectors also, where we want to maintain that competitiveness of MSMEs also. So fortunately, the government itself in Telangana takes control of the skilling program. We have an institution which is called TASK, Telangana Academy of Skills and Knowledge. So pre-COVID, that is up to 2019, the focus of TASK was mostly to work with students. So let us say I'm an engineering student, so TASK will start offering programs to me in my third year, in my fourth year. If I'm a pharmacy student, TASK will again guide me in my second year, in my third year. So TASK used to largely work with students, but looking at the new reality today, after COVID, we have decided that TASK should have a very strong program for working professionals, a very strong program on upskilling. So the details are being worked out, modules are being worked out. But I personally feel that in coming years, task will be more recognized or more utilized by working professionals rather than by students. I mean, students will continue to benefit. Not that we will ignore the needs of the students, but task will become more relevant and more useful and more appreciated and recognized for the services it will perform to working professionals. And obviously, the working professionals from the MSMEs are our target because, again, as I said, the Microsofts of the world and the Googles of the world, they have their own internal ways of keeping their staff well kind of skilled, etc., etc. They don't require the government to do anything for them, but it is the MSMEs who need it the most. And fortunately, in Telangana, we are going to provide something which will be extremely tailor-made for them.
Okay. Jayji, sir, on the ease of doing business, Telangana is ranked third, sir. In fact, you slipped to third from the second place in the last ranking, but the state government has taken several steps on this front, sir. You have recently come up with that pink book also, an investor guide to Telangana. So moving forward, are you expecting improvements in the ranking as we move ahead, sir?
See, we are not very particular about the ranking per se. I mean, as long as we feel internally that we are doing well and we get positive feedback from our existing investors, that matters to us more than anything else. And on this front, I feel very proud to share this with you that all our existing investors in the state, they have today become our biggest brand ambassadors. We do not conduct any mega investors meet or global investor summits and anything like that in Telangana. Yet we continue to receive more and more and more and more exciting investments. And one of the reasons is that we get a very strong word of the mouth publicity by our existing investors. And one other data which I would like to share with you, not many states monitor this data, and even if they monitor, they do not report it. But in Telangana, we monitor, and I feel very proud to share it on every possible occasion. The data is how much of the investment that you are getting is repeat investment, meaning the same company which has invested once decided to do it the second time, the third time, the fourth time. And I feel very happy to share with you that we are now close to 25%. 25% of our investments are by people who are already invested here. And because they found the going to be good, they have decided to bring their second investment, third investment, and it cuts across sectors, cut across the whether the company is a multinational company or domestic company. In fact, there are companies which have invested 6 or 7 times in Telangana, one after the other. Any new project, and mind you, these are not companies who have anything to do with Telangana, in the sense that their founder is not from Telangana, the company is not headquartered in Hyderabad. If it is a company owned by a Telangana person and if he's doing 5 investments, 6 investments, it doesn't surprise anyone. He's from Telangana, he wants to give back, he's familiar with this place. But we have people who have nothing to do with Telangana. They live in the north, they are from the north, they don't speak Telugu, nothing to connect them to Telangana. But because the going is so good, the ease of doing business, the quality of doing business is so good that repeatedly their investments happen here only. So that is much more than any rank that someone can artificially give it to us.
Yeah, as you're saying, repeat investment is happening. In fact, sir, if we go a little back, the state was formed officially formed in 2014, and Telangana is among the top states if we talk about ease of doing business ranking, because you were 13th in 2015, sir. And from there, you came to second and third. So that way, the journey has been quite impressive. Sir, let's move ahead now, sir. We'll talk about delayed payments, sir, which has been a big concern area for MSME, sir. Sir, despite the act clearly mentioning 45 days, small businesses face several issues, sir. So, what would you like to tell MSMEs, and how can the facilitation councils which are there in the state be further strengthened, sir, so that the decisions which are there are honored in a time-bound manner, sir?
So in Telangana, one new thing that we have done is that we have decentralized this facilitation councils. Now, instead of having only one at the state headquarters, there are three more. So the ability of the MSME to report some issue, some grievance, some delayed payment matter to their nearest facilitation council, that has gone up. They don't have to come to Hyderabad or meet people in the headquarters to get their matters resolved. So we have brought the facilitation council closer to the MSME units. In those districts where there is a high concentration of MSMEs, we have brought this council. So that is one innovation. But I do agree that on many occasions, despite the facilitation council giving a direction, the directions are not implemented, etc., etc. So I guess this is an experience which is seen in many other states also. Government of India also, whenever they have reviewed MSME related issues with the states, I recall some state or the other brings out this point. So hopefully some kind of reform, some kind of strengthening of this law will need to be brought out. And I do agree that not able to have timely payments impacts their revenue streams and revenue inflows quite badly. In Telangana, we have done one more thing. We have created an institution. This is something very innovative and something which has really worked very well. This is called the Telangana Industrial Health Clinic, TIHC, and it is meant only for MSMEs. Now, we have seen in the past, and we will continue to see that for some reason or the other, there will be some MSMEs who will really get stressed. Of course, COVID is a leveler. Everyone has got stressed at this point in time. But let us take a normal circumstance into consideration. At a normal time, also due to some reason, some global developments, some company level issues, some other sectoral issues, there could be challenges which are faced by the MSMEs. And MSMEs can, if they are not able to tide over that situation or that circumstance, they may eventually become a non-performing asset, an NPA in the bank, and they may eventually become sick. So what the industrial health clinic does, as the name implies, it is a clinic. It's like a doctor's clinic. So when you are feeling unwell, you try to reach out to a doctor so that in time you get some relief, some medication, and you don't really fall badly sick. So industrial health clinics purpose is precisely the same. They are expected to intervene at a time when early symptoms of illness or sickness rather in an MSME is seen. And many times, while there could be multiple reasons, many times the main cause is that the cash flow that you were supposed to get, and sometimes the government itself is a defaulter. Governments also are supposed to pay subsidies and incentives to MSMEs, and unfortunately in Telangana also, I'm sure it is true of other states, because of COVID, our revenues have also gone down badly. Our budgets have been completely distorted, both last year as well as this year. So even we are not in a position to pay the dues which MSMEs have. So industrial health clinic, what it does is that in case this is the biggest reason of stress for any MSME, it provides what is called a bridge financing.
Yes.
Against what you will get either from the government or from any other agency. So that is something which has worked well. We have been able to intervene in more than 100 cases, and the benefit which these MSMEs have derived because of this timely injection of capital. I am supposed to give them money. For some reason, I am not able to give, but they have been able to get it from somewhere else, from the corpus of the industrial health clinic, and they have been able to tide over that problem. So for delayed payment, etc., one, of course, is to strengthen the mechanism of the facilitation council, etc. But second is to also see if these kind of innovative short-term solutions can be found.
Okay, so thank you very much for this initial talk. Sir, now it's time for the MSME industry interaction. Sir, joining us with the first suggestion is Mr. K. Bhaskar Reddy. He is the president of FTCCI, Federation of Telangana Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and MD of Creamline Dairy Products, sir.
For sustainable growth of Telangana state, we need to shift our focus to manufacturing sector and more so MSME. So what are the additional measures initiated towards this? That is part A. Part B is land has become very expensive and it has become very prohibitive for MSMEs to start their operations. So some neighboring states are operating on a lease mode because some of the MSMEs to start their project, the land cost itself is becoming more than 50%.
So, sir, your views on these two aspects, greater emphasis on the manufacturing and also if land can be provided on lease basis, if you can share your views on that front, sir.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. And the state has identified 14 priority sectors, many of which focus on manufacturing. And we also are pursuing investments in all these important sectors. And we know that whenever there is a large investment which comes to the state, it also opens up opportunities for many ancillaries, which are typically in the MSME space. So I agree with it. And this suggestion that if land cost is expensive, it can be given on lease also. It is also, it is permissible. It's not that in Telangana we can't permit, but we have calculated. If you look at the net present value, etc., the way arithmetic works is that sometimes it is easier to pay for the land upfront rather than continue to pay lease year after year after year, because eventually you will end up, if you calculate the NPV, you will end up paying much more than what you would have paid had you paid just upfront. But definitely, it's an idea which is worth considering.
So next up, we have Mr. Mela Jaydev. He's the Vice President from the Chamber and also MD of Sudhakar Irrigation System.
Honorable Chief Minister and his team invites and administration support made Telangana state to become a rice supplies state. Thanks to Mission Bhagirath and Kaleshwaram projects, government has proposed to set up food processing zones, parks, various places is also a good initiative to process the agri products. In this scenario, the government has to put more focus on research and development activities in food processing and other allied industries. So far, there is no such significant move in this direction. What are the steps proposed in these directions by the government of Telangana, sir? Telangana government has bring a scheme to promote the cold storages in all district headquarters and major agriculture markets and commercial crops.
So, sir, we would like to take your views for Mr. Jaydev on promoting R&D in the food processing and cold storages, sir.
Yes, so both ideas are very essential. The Agriculture University has been given this mandate in our state to do R&D on the important crops and what kind of processing opportunities are there. And they have started doing it. There is a Government of India scheme also in which such kind of an R&D is encouraged, and there is a funding support also for that R&D. So the Agriculture University of Hyderabad has been identified as the nodal agency for this purpose. So they are doing it. Very recently, just about 10 days ago, our cabinet has approved of our logistics policy, and the government order was issued about a week ago. In that logistics policy also, there is a provision of incentivizing and encouraging the development of cold storages. So exactly the point that he has mentioned. We have captured that in the policy and also created a incentive structure for anyone who wants to set up cold storage. And in the food processing zones also, which we want to set up in the state, some portion will be earmarked for food processing related infrastructure, which includes storage facilities like cold storage.
So joining us with the next suggestion is Mr. Vinod Kumar Agarwal, Managing Director of Mahalakshmi Profiles.
Solar energy developers are not given commissioning permit to sell the power in the market or supply to DISCOM, making the investment make a dead investment and no returns. Whereas the whole world is heading towards the renewable energy. High power intensive industries request state government for the reduction in power tariff to compete with neighboring state, which is dumping the material in our state.
So, sir, your views on these two aspects on basically solar energy developers and on power tariffs, if you can just
See,
share your points.
both the points are to be understood in a particular context. And the context is that Telangana is one of the few states, perhaps the only state, I'm not 100% sure, but certainly one of the few states which provides free power to the farmers, to the farming sector, 24/7, 365 days a year. The power is provided free, and that is good quality 24/7 power. So obviously someone has to pay for that power, while the farmer gets it free, but someone else has to bear that cost. So right now the cost is borne through a method of cross subsidy, and the higher tariff is charged from the industries and the commercial users. So this is the context. So now tomorrow, if some industry says that I will not pay for the power, I will do my own solar thing, and I will not participate in the grid. So then the question is that the opportunity to subsidize the free power for the farmer gets eroded. So these are larger issues. I mean, solutions are being worked out. We do not want to penalize the industry for this, but right now we have to see this in the larger context that we provide free power and someone has to pay for it.
Okay,
And
sir.
of course, regarding the power tariff, etc., the tariff, as all of us know, the tariff is not fixed by the government. The tariff is fixed by the regulatory commission. And obviously, when the regulatory commission sees that I'm providing so much of free power, and obviously that has to be loaded somewhere else. Therefore, the load comes on industrial and commercial users, where the load becomes high.
Okay, sir. So next up, we have Mr. Manish Surana from Bhagyanagar Energy and Telecom from Surana Group.
Dear sir, you promote large industries by giving special ops for investments over 200 crores. What special incentives and SOPs can the state government give to the MSME to make them feel that they are supported and their entrepreneurial spirit is intact?
So he's talking about providing more support to the MSMEs in a way.
Our policy of providing incentives to MSME is called T-IDEA. And by and large, the industry is quite okay with T-IDEA, the kind of measures that we have provided in T-IDEA. They are welcoming of it. And T-IDEA has been prepared after looking at what other states provide and so on and so forth. So we are well benchmarked that day, so to speak.
So now we are going to be taking the last suggestion. This is from Sunil Kumar Patodia from Hyderabad Precision Manufacturing. He's the chairman.
We are a SSI unit. Micro and small scale units faces a great challenge for the skilled labor. Problems are serious because of first availability. We train freshers, give them parental touch, even though they reject our materials, break our tools, damages our machines, etc., etc. No sooner they get basic training, they leave us and go for other opportunities. We request to do first, arrange skill development centers as per local area industrial requirements. Second, make rules for a bond. Whoever works should stay for minimum 3 years, and a wages retention of 10% should be permitted to all of us till completion of 3 years. This will help us to retain them.
So, sir, these two aspects basically for skill development centers, and also if some bond can be made with the persons working there so that they can help them in retaining them, sir. Just a thought on that, sir.
I'll check with the labor department whether it is in consonance with existing labor laws, etc. Because getting bonds signed, etc., I'm not sure if the labor laws permit. We should not be violating any existing labor law, etc. on that front. But our responsibility to skill them, etc., is also very important. So
Right, sir.
that I have already explained how we want to do it.
Yes, sir. So that's all the time we had, sir. Before we say final thank you to you, goodbye to you. So the last word to MSMEs in your region, just your message to them, sir.
Yes. So first of all, my appreciation to all the MSMEs in Telangana. We have gone through very difficult times, and you have stood with the government and supported our decisions. You have also managed your such situation in such a way that people whom you support, your workers, your vendors, your clients, etc., you have managed to maintain your part of the bargain quite well. So I appreciate your fortitude and courage, and I hope that in the days to come, where definitely we will be able to reach the pre-COVID situation, we will continue to renew our efforts to make you grow and become stronger and become world competitive in your respective areas.
That's all the time we had. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce and Information Technology, Government of Telangana. Sir, thanks a lot for joining us for this special session. Thank you, sir. We would also once again like to thank our partners for this series. Presenting sponsor, Amazon, co-powered by Farm Easy and Intel. Crypto exchange partner, BitBNS. Domain partner, GoDaddy. Laptop partner, Dell. Logistics partner, DHL. Driving partner, Skoda. Special partner, Timology. Thanks to all of you.
What we're kind of seeing is a massive growth around a lot of people kind of having an interest into digital assets, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. And what we're seeing is that over a period of time, right, usually a generation kind of drives its wealth from a certain sort of segment. So people in 50s and earlier kind of drew it from gold. People in 70s, 80s kind of did it from something like real estate. People in early 2000s did it from stock markets. This generation is getting that sort of an avenue with cryptocurrency. Crypto as an asset class itself has grown about 200 times in the last 5 years, from about 10 billion USD to about 2 trillion USD now. And it is kind of just getting started. We'll see a lot of interesting things kind of happening in this space. Crypto by now has about 20 million users in India, which is kind of roughly half of the stock market sort of trading base that India has. And we also kind of see a lot of people using crypto in the form of investing, like a Bitcoin SIP and others. And we're also seeing corporates, MSMEs, small and medium sort of enterprises that are out there, which are also putting some part of their balance sheet into crypto, which has been a very interesting trend. We're seeing a more number of current accounts kind of getting registered, and they're kind of then putting 4 or 5% of their net worth into crypto, and they kind of have, so basically they're trying to kind of hedge inflation and a few of those effects by kind of putting into crypto. And we see this is going to be kind of an accelerating trend. This is something that has already happened in the matured markets like US and Japan, where crypto is a really, really large asset class. There is $500 billion that is kind of out there in US as a market with respect to crypto. Japan is kind of fairly significant. India is kind of on that sort of an uptick curve, and we're seeing really, really large number of transactions and trades kind of starting to happen now. And that's something that we kind of expect to kind of grow by a factor of 100 times in the next 4 to 5 years. So it would be an interesting time to kind of look at crypto. Crypto as a whole right now in India is not restricted. It is perfectly fine for someone to trade, invest, hold, or mine crypto. There is no restriction of any sort. And we're going to kind of also see a digital currency bill tabled in the parliament in the next 3 to 4 months. That is the expected timeline in winter session. So that's my kind of thoughts around crypto. There have been a lot of studies which say for an individual or for any sort of entity, like the endowment funds of something like a Yale, Harvard, Stanford, have also put into something like Bitcoin, and they've put about 5 to 6% of their sort of net endowment fund into Bitcoin, and they've raised studies which kind of showcase that every portfolio at least should have that sort of an allocation. So that's around crypto. We would kind of see interesting sort of things happening with crypto in terms of MSME lending, MSME sort of insurance in terms of or capital sort of invoice discounting, and a lot of these things also kind of happening in the crypto space in a more efficient and a more quicker manner.